And we're live. Welcome back to another episode of the iFilmmaker podcast. My name is Ariel Martinez, and today we have a very special episode for you guys. We have Mr. Alex Ferrari of the Indie Film Hustle podcast. Before we get into that episode, into our conversation, I just want to remind you guys that we are live on YouTube at the iFilmmaker podcast YouTube channel. Go check that out. Make sure you're subscribed and you're getting notified on these episodes. If you're not here live, it's because you're not subscribed and you're not notified, and therefore you don't get these notifications. So just want to remind you guys, but either way, once we're done, this is going to live on iFilmmaker.tv. Make sure you catch that over there. But we have a few people out here already live with us and joining the conversation. But let's get right into it. Mr. Alex Ferrari, how are you?
I'm good, brother. How you holding up, man?
Good, man. Good. I've been listening to your podcast for a long time. And in fact, it's one of the first ones I ever found when I started my podcast. And I think that, my goodness, I don't know how I'm going to get to that level. But I mean, here you are. Here we are. We're talking, and I guess we're making it happen.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate that. It's good to talk to a fellow Cubano from Miami. Yes. So that's it's always nice.
So I just found, I had no idea that you were from Miami. Man, that's like my MO here. Like, there's no other person out there that is like from Miami, like putting out stuff like that. And man, super good to know, representing from Miami, representing from Cuba. So
yes, absolutely.
I'm half Cuban, other is Nicaraguense, but man, we gotta get together and get a cafecito sometime.
Obviously. Obviously. I'll take you to Portos. I'll take you to Portos when you get over here.
Oh my God, I gotta go there. So tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, where did you start? And where are you now? I'm sure it's a very long story, but I guess condense it where you feel it needs to be condensed.
I started out in Miami in the film business down there. Started working for the largest commercial production company in the Southeast, which was based in South Miami. At the time, that company was called AFI Filmworks, and they're not around anymore. The company, they retired. But I started there, and I kind of started in commercials. So while I was the tape dubber and Apple tech for the entire production company at the time, like literally connecting Apple Talk cables together.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, like I'm old, sir. So while I was doing that, I learned I had an Avid actually that was next door to me in my office. So I was in one office, and there was an Avid next door, and I decided, I'm like, I don't want a PA anymore. I'm going to learn how to edit. And I did. And I just kind of gravitated to it. And within, I think 8 months later, I think I just quit. I said, I'm just going to go out and freelance edit because I'm crazy.
Okay.
And I did. And I started editing and doing a lot of editorial work throughout Miami and commercials. I've done so many different things. It was insane. And then I started directing commercials and went on from there. And I had a little bit of a year-long sabbatical from the business, not from the business, but from my life with the book that we'll talk about later, which is that whole thing that I did with the mob, which that was during that time.
Wow. Okay.
But we'll get into that later.
All right.
But then from there, I shot a bunch of shorts. So one of my early shorts got a lot of acclaim. Got Roger Ebert reviewed it, and was in over, I think, 250 film festivals around the world. And
wow,
that kind of launched this whole thing with my career. And then after a few years, I decided, I got to get to LA. And I moved out here about a decade ago. It's going to be close to 11 years now. Wow. Coming up. The anniversary of 11 years is coming up. And ever since I got out here, I've just been hustling hard, directing, editing, opened up my own post-production company, my own production company. And then in 2015, I launched Indie Film Hustle, which that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. No. That's definitely quite a resume. That's actually big. When you decided to go full-time freelance, how old were you?
22, 21, 22. Okay. Mind you, don't forget, it was a different time. Right. So I'm talking about what, like the late 90s. So we're like 97, 98 kind of world. Okay. There was still money. Money was flowing. In Miami, I remember that there was like 11 post houses, like big post houses. And, you know, by the time I left, there was one that was like on life support.
What happened?
Well, the bubble happened, first of all. So when the internet bubble happened, all the money dried up. So everything just kind of dried up after that. And then, but during that time, you know, I was getting paid crazy money to edit. Like it was insane, the kind of money I was getting paid hourly back then, because the money was flowing, man. I remember doing a John Cicada, you know, Gloria Estefan music video back in the day. And I remember John Cicada, and people I'm going deep, but John Cicada back then, man, he was like a, you know, I wouldn't say B level, but he was a major movie. He wasn't a major star. They were giving him like $200,000 for a music video. Can you imagine? Like $250,000 for a music video. That was for like low end. That's
that doesn't happen these days.
No, man. Like, you know, $80,000, $100,000 budgets for VFX. You know, we're editing on flames and stuff and doing all this kind of craziness. It was just a different world. So, and the competition wasn't nearly as fierce. There wasn't nearly as much information out there. There wasn't as much access. You know, I had to go to, you know, to learn the Avid. I actually had to wake up super early for my hour commute to get to my job, and then spend an hour early before work practicing, and then an hour afterwards, after, you know, hour or two after we shut down, to practice. So that was the only place I could get it. Now, I mean, everyone can edit on their iPhones. Like, so there's so much more accessibility to the technology and the information. Back then there wasn't. So the competition wasn't nearly as fierce as it is now. So, you know, busting out as a freelancer at 21 or 22 in today's world, especially in a market like Miami, would be extremely difficult. Not impossible, but difficult.
Right. I mean, I can imagine like the work is harder because of the lack of technology that there was back then.
It took longer. I mean, renderings took forever. That's why I think you could charge more. You could charge more for things because there was still a perceived value. Like, you know, we were talking about Da Vinci before, you know, we got on air. Before, Da Vinci was $1 million suite. Jeez. Before Blackmagic bought it, it cost $1 million. No exaggeration, to set up a color grading suite.
I didn't know that it was an acquisition of Blackmagic.
Yeah, Blackmagic bought it. Yeah, so they bought it. Was the #1 color grading system. So they bought it and they said, okay, we're going to give it away now. And people were like, what are you doing? And that's what happened. So now you could set up a full-blown professional color grading system for 10, 15, 20 grand maybe.
Wow. That's
insane. So so being able to bring that down, also now everybody thinks that they can do it. So I was there, like I was there when, before, you had to go to a post house, like to do editing and to do audio and to do visual effects. So I worked with Discovery. I worked with every company that was in Miami at that time. I worked with MTV, Discovery Channel, all those guys. But then slowly but surely, they all got smart, and they're like, we're going to just buy the Avids and keep them in-house. And why are we spending tens of thousands of dollars a month at a post house when we could just buy it and we own it?
Yeah.
And just hire the freelancers. So that's where there was a lot more opportunity for people like me out there at that time. So I saw the shift, and then eventually Final Cut came into play, and that's where I jumped to Final Cut.
Wow. Just so much. Do you think that a move like that, like, hurt the industry or made the industry better? Because I'm sure it hurt some businesses, but it created other businesses. Like, I don't know.
Look, the bottom line is this, and this is something that I talk about constantly, and people don't understand this. The change is happening not only in our business, but in the world at such a rapid rate. We're not talking about every year or every 2 years. We're talking about every month, every 2 months, every quarter. There's major changes happening. The technology has changed just in the last 5 years.
Exponentially.
How much has things changed? So there's always going to be the old folks, and I'm not saying the old folks, but people who want to hold on to the old ideas because that's where they made their business. So I always use the analogy of the horse and buggy. Like, there was the dude that made the whip, like the whip dude, guy that made the whip for the horses to make the horses go, right? Right. That dude was good.
Yeah.
Like, the business was good. Like, I'm the guy that makes the whip. And all of a sudden, this motorized horseless carriage shows up. He's like, that'll never last.
Right.
And then he's like, no, but how about the horses? Look, I could still do this really well. He doesn't innovate. He doesn't move on, and he gets left behind, and it's gone. It's happened all around us. Toys R Us, Sears, for God's sakes, Kmart. Let's not even talk about Blockbuster, who had the option to buy Netflix for $50 million and said no.
Oh gosh.
Because they were too cocky in where they are, and it happens all the time in every industry, but in our industry especially. So people who were used to, like I go to a post house and they would charge me to plug in their hard drive. Like I would bring the hard drive and they're like, oh, there's a plug-in charge and there's a data transfer charge. And I'm like, dude, and I would tell them straight up, I'm like, this is not 1995 anymore, guys. You can't keep doing this. And they were like, nah, man, it's just the way we do business. Like, all right. And all of those guys, especially ones in Miami, all went down. The BVIs of the world, all those, I forgot the names of the other ones. There were so many of them down there, but they all went down.
Irrelevant, but
it's irrelevant, but they all went down because they did not innovate. They did not figure things out and learn how to shift the whole game. So people who get stuck in the way they're doing things because that's the way it's always been done, dude, that is gone. And if as filmmakers, if you don't understand, like, I just want to make movies to go in the movie theater, you're done. Like, that is not the way the world works anymore. You have to be able to understand that there is other mediums. Yeah. Netflix, streaming, YouTube, video podcasts. A
Netflix original almost won a Best Picture Oscar.
It won a lot of them, man. It almost won. It did win a bunch of them, didn't it?
No. It did win a lot of them. And
Spielberg and look, Spielberg's pissed. Like Spielberg's out there right now going like he's like warring with freaking Netflix. Like, no, it has to be theatrical. It shouldn't even count because it was on streaming. And I'm a huge Steven Spielberg fan. Anybody from my generation, anybody. But I would tell Steve, I go, Steve, man, because I know Steve. No, I don't. I would go, Mr. Spielberg.
I text him.
Let me text Steve right now. No, yeah, me, him, and George were hanging out, talking about Star Wars. No, so Mr. Spielberg, I go, look, man, I understand what you're saying, and I know you want to keep the purity of it, but that is not where this business is going. People who are fighting for film, I'm all about film. It should stay as a format and a platform for people. There's still no way to archive movies better than celluloid. Period. No hard drives, no nothing. At this point in the game, as this recording, film is the best platform and the best format to archive. It's also arguably one of the best ways to record images. It's beautiful. It's done right. It's expensive. Yeah. And it definitely leaves out a lot of people that wouldn't have access to it. But it should stay in it should, like, people's like, oh, film is dead. Film is not dead, dude. It's in the conversation and will maintain itself in the conversation for many years to come. But if you don't innovate, remember when Red came out? Oh, like, I was there when Red came out, dude. I was one of the few editors in LA who was able to handle the Red workflow. That's why I was working so much, because I remember walking into LA post houses with a Red hard drive, and they just looked at me like I was from another planet. They didn't understand the workflow. They didn't care about the workflow. That's not part of their business model. No, we just do film. What is this with this digital? That's not broadcast. That's not. And that happened. So look at all the camera companies got left behind by Red. It took it took Arri years to catch up. Yes. It took them a while before they finally got something that was competitive. Sony's still behind the ball. Panasonic is still behind the ball, know? And then there's other companies like Blackmagic who just do them. They're like, look, we ain't going to play with you guys. We're just going to do us. Yeah. And we're going to do something that nobody else does. We're going to incorporate everything from the camera to the post to the deliverables to everything. And we're going to keep it all in the family. No one else is doing that. So anyway, they're killing it. They're killing it. Come on, man. They're killing it. And they're giving away DaVinci Resolve. So now how many millions of kids are coming up with DaVinci Resolve as their editing system? So what camera do you think they're going to buy eventually? Blackmagic. It's a fairly genius marketing.
No, they're doing a fantastic job, man. You just go to even to the NAB show. When I went,
they owned the NAB show.
Oh my gosh, they just killed it. It was all about them.
It was like I was flown out. I was flown out by Blackmagic to talk. I was doing a talk there for them, and I'd never been to NAB. And I'm in the taxi driving into, like, where's NAB? Oh, there's the convention center. I look over. I'm like, holy! Like, it was just Blackmagic everywhere, man.
That was insane. That was the
owned it.
that weekend or those few days that we were there. It's their latest releases.
And it was, but that's what Apple used to do. Like Apple used to own NAB back in the day.
Wow.
You know, but now they just said, yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
We got watches and phones we're dealing with. We don't need to be hanging out here at NAB.
That's so funny. So, man, that was a great history lesson, dude. I learned a lot. Definitely want to learn more.
Brother.
I just want to remind everyone, go ahead and ask your questions. We got several people here live from Prague. Even hello to everyone that's joining us. Lillian, JF, Brandon, welcome back, guys. I want to get into your work. So you mentioned you had a short that was widely recognized, and then you released This Is Meg. Right?
Yeah, there was about a 11-year gap.
Yeah, so so that's what I want to get into. So you released a short, right, that was widely recognized, and it took you 11 years to release this feature. Right.
Yeah.
Now we have on Amazon, and you know, it's quite an accomplishment to get your work on a platform like Amazon or Netflix or any other platform like that. Can you talk to me about that? Like, why did it take so long? Because I'm assuming it has a lot to do with the word hustle that's labeled on your hat right now. So why did it take so long? Your story behind that whole thing, and then we'll get into how you made it.
Yeah, sure, man. So the bottom line is, man, there was all sorts of different mindsets and BS that I threw in front of myself. I was throwing obstacles in front of myself when there wasn't any. So why I'm able to talk about things on my podcast and on my platform about filmmakers is because I've gone through it all. And I haven't all of it, but I've gone through a bunch. So I understand how an indie filmmaker thinks because I'm an indie filmmaker. And all the mistakes I made, all of the drama I created in my own life and in my own career, I was first in the bottom line was I was scared. That was it. I was terrified to put myself out there because everything had to be perfect. I needed to have the cast. I needed to have the budget. I needed to have the camera. I needed to have all of that, where I easily had the skills to make a feature film and the technology back in 05, 04. I could have easily done it. I could have done it if I truly, truly wanted to. But I didn't because I was scared because I also put so much pressure on my first feature because it had to come out like Reservoir Dogs, baby. It had to come out like Mariachi. Like I needed it, like the industry needed to know who I was off my first feature. So how can you put that much pressure on your first feature film, like your first big thing? When I made Broken, my short, I didn't have any pressure on it. I didn't expect it to do. I just wanted to make it. Same thing with Reservoir Dogs. Same thing with Mariachi. Same thing with Clerks. All these, none of those guys thought it was going to go anywhere. You know, they just thought like, I'm just going to make a movie that I want to make. So that weight that I put on myself stifled me. I was afraid. I made excuses on top of excuses because, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that, or the business is not giving me to that. I became the victim of my own life. And so many filmmakers and many listening or watching today are going through that. So I finally got to a point where when This Is Meg finally came to be, I was 40, I think it was just 40 or turning 41 when that happened. I was about to turn 41. And I had been attached to another big project with a big screenwriter and a big producer and all that kind of stuff. And it fell apart again. And I was like, I can't keep playing this game anymore. Like, I'm 41, man. I can't do this. You know, I'm not 21. Tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be 60. Still, you know, bitching about not being able to make my feature film and making all the excuses in the world. So I just said, screw it. I'm making a movie. So I called up my friend, who's a stand-up comic and an actress. We've been friends for like 8-9 years. I call her up. I'm like, I want to make a movie. She's like, okay. I'm like, I want you to star in it. She's like, I'm listening. And I go, and I want to make it about your life as a female comic / actress trying to make it in Hollywood. She's like, I can do that. I'm like, great. Let's write something. So we wrote, she wrote the scriptment, you know, and I helped, but we wrote the scriptment, which is a structured outline. So I went down the Duplass Brothers style of filmmaking, which was, let's make a scriptment. I don't want to get caught up in the screenplay. I don't want to get caught up in having to get everything perfect before we go out and launch. screw it. We're going to make a scriptment. We're going to go by the edge of our seats. And then I knew who she could get a hold of as far as her friends are concerned. She's like, I can call this friend, who are all, I mean, insanely seasoned actors who are all improv based. So I'm like, great, let's do that. And then on top of that, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to also DP this myself. I've never DP'd a feature film. So I'm just going to get myself a little bit more out of my own comfort zone. Yeah. So I made it as crazily as possible. I shot it with a Blackmagic 2.5K camera. I had a second camera guy, my buddy Austin. So it was 2-camera shoot. I had an audio, a Tascam. I bought a Rode mic and a boom. And whoever showed up that day, I taught him how to record audio. Wow. That was it. And I just get the mic close. And I took courses about how to record audio. I took courses on cinematography, and I've been a colorist for 10 years prior to that. So I knew I can get it. I can make it look good. I've made so many bad movies look good. I'm like, if I could just get this down the middle, I just got to get it down the middle, and I'll be able to make it look halfway decent. Gotcha. So that's what we did. And 30 days later, we were shooting. Literally 30 days later, we were shooting. From the moment I came up with like, I'm going to go make a movie, I didn't give my ego, my mind, anything, a chance to even react, to try to slow me down, because I knew if I thought about it, I would talk myself out of it. And then on top of that, I'm like, I'm going to do it publicly. So I'm going to let everybody know in my audience that I'm doing it. So now I'm really on the hook. So I got to make something happen here. And we did it for about $4 or $5 grand, the whole movie. We shot the whole thing in 8 days. We, we stole everything. We stole, meaning I stole all the locations. I shot up at the Hollywood sign, and we shot at friends' houses and all that kind of stuff. So, and we just did it. We just did it. And I was like, I don't care how it turns out. I'm just going to try. And if it doesn't come out good, I learned something, and I'll show my audience, the tribe, what I did and how I did it. And if I fail, I'll show them how I failed. And if I didn't, it takes a certain set of cojones to do that. And you have to be in a certain place in your life. So as a 40-odd-year-old man at that point, I just said, I just can't do this anymore. And I did it. And when the movie was done, it world premiered at the CineQuest Film Festival. It got bought by Hulu. I sold it internationally, and I'm still making money off of it. It's on iTunes, it's on Amazon, and it became a success story for independent filmmakers. And I show them how I do it. And I showed them, look, I talk about a lot of it. I interviewed people that worked on the film and all that stuff, because I wanted to prove to everybody, I'm like, there's no excuse, man. Look, just go out and make it. It is a feasible business model. You can do this. Did I get rich off the movie? No. But it's okay. I made some money on it. I actually crowdfunded it. So I really was in the black from the moment I started shooting. It didn't really matter. So it was so, there's scenes in the movie that was literally just me and Jill, my star. It was just the two of us. I'm at her house and we're shooting scenes. And I'm setting up the mic on a stand. Literally, it was. If you tell me to do it today, I don't know if I could do it. That's how crazy it was, because I look back at it, I'm like, I was a psychopath. I can't believe I did that. But sometimes you've got to be crazy. You've got to go out and do something. And it was a calculated risk, because I wasn't betting my mortgage or betting the house or anything like that on it. I was like, look, it's $5 grand. If I can't make it work for this, it's a learning experience. I can afford to lose $5 grand. But then I crowdfunded it, so I didn't even have to worry about that. And it just turned into a very profitable film for us. So it was great.
And where did the budget go to?
It was talent. It was talent and food and travel and a little bit and some audio. We did audio too. Had audio professionally done. So some of it went to audio. I did all the post-production. Yeah, exactly. Okay. And then cast and crew basically, and there was a very little crew, but we paid people some things here and there, and yeah. I mean, look, the movie should have cost $100,000. It should have cost that much, but everybody came in as favors to Jill as far as actors are concerned. I pulled all my favors, and that's just the way we did it.
That's insane, because I mean, as we were talking about earlier, a lot of production houses losing their business and businesses getting shut down, but this is a byproduct of all the technology that's already out there for everyone. Like, there is absolutely no reason why you can't go out there and make something right now, you know?
Right.
And that's why that's what I love about this whole thing. It's just that, I mean, now we get to the nitty gritty. Now, when you see all the technology, everything that we have to our disposal, now we see who's serious about this stuff and who's not, right? Because I can imagine. I've been in the scene for like 5 minutes, right? But I can imagine back in the day that was the talk where people would say, "Well, I don't have that much money to make a film," right? But now
because it cost like you cost too much. Like it's like I have to go get 35 millimeter or I gotta go get Super 16. It's a thing. It was a thing.
Yeah. So now it's really put your money where your mouth is, you know. So essentially, like, everything's there ready for everybody. And honestly, I am not innocent of this at all. Like, you know, I've been of the mindset, you know, I want to get this camera so I can make this kind of thing. And that was when I first bought my camera. Now I'm 5 cameras in, thousands and thousands of dollars cameras in, and I've made like 2 shorts, and I'm like, okay, you know. And like you said, like I'm putting obstacles in front of me. Like, well, I want to get the new computer now. I want to get the next camera.
It's never going to stop, because what you're doing on a subconscious level is this. Because I've studied the mindset of the independent filmmaker so much in my own self, and then also in just hundreds of interviews that I've done over the course of my career, and just also thousands of filmmakers I've worked with in my career. The mindset of the filmmaker is that you are, on a subconscious level, don't want to leave your safe zone, your comfort zone. So you are in a box. Your mind has put your whole career. I'm just going to talk about the career. Let's not even talk about your life. Sure. But like, you put your whole career in a box. This is where I'm comfortable. This is where I'm safe. On a evolutionary standpoint, that is what your mind is programmed to do. Because if you decide to change things that are not familiar to you, you can get eaten by a tiger. That is the mentality of the mind, the subconscious mind. That's why it always wants. That's why anytime you start doing new things, it hurts. It change like I'm gonna go lose weight. I'm gonna wake up in the morning, go to the gym. Those first few weeks are just brutal, you know, or diet or something like that. Like, I don't want to change what's normal. Why? Because it's comfortable and it's safe. So you, on a subconscious level, are doing that. Like, oh, okay, well, with the new computer, I really need this. Okay, well, I got the new computer. Like, oh, but that new Blackmagic, like 35K is coming out. That 35K camera is going to be that's going to be the next thing. So I need that. And then once you have the gear, then you like look around like, I can't make any more excuses. Well, I need this much money to do this vision that I have. So you are constantly creating. How many people have you talked to? Like, I need X amount of dollars to make my movie, to make my vision come to life. Like, I need this. I can't even think about making this for less than $350,000. Like, I can't. That's just insane. I can't do that. Yeah. Well, then write something you can make for 5 or 10 grand. Yeah. You know, and then the rebuttal with that was like, well, I don't want to be known as the $5,000 or $10,000 independent filmmaker. Like, I want to be like David Fincher's and the Christopher Nolan's. Like, they didn't do that. I'm like, they didn't, but you're not them. Like, you got to make your own path. Like, exactly. I mean, look, I'm a filmmaker and a podcaster, among many other hyphenists that I have. Sure. The path that I am blazing for myself, I don't know many other filmmakers that have the same path that I'm doing, creating myself a platform, creating myself an audience that I can, teach, inspire, learn from, and grow together as artists and as an entrepreneur, as well as then creating content for them. That is a path that's not been walked or hasn't been walked often. It's not as much as like, oh, I'm going to go commercials, or I'm going to go do music videos, or I'm going to go, go to film school and come out and, do a short that gets picked up, or all those things. Another thing really quickly, and this is something I really want to get clear to everybody listening. And I got stuck in this damn mindset for so long. I was raised in the glorious 90s. So 91, 92, 93, when Mariachi, when Reservoir, when Clerks, when Slackers, when Boys in the Hood, Sex, Lies, and Videotape, when all of these kind of directors, like every month there was a new director getting the golden ticket. That was the glorious times of the 90s. So in my mind, I was like, that's what I need to do. So I held on to that time period in my head so much that I'm like, dude, it is 2015, 2016. That window is gone. Like the window that David Fincher walked in on and Michael Bay and Antoine Fuqua and Spike Jonze, that window closed. That door is gone. You're not going to get in through music videos and commercials like they did. It's just not there anymore. Same way as Spielberg, Scorsese, Coppola, all those guys came in through the film school generation in the 1970s. Why? Because that was a moment in time where the door was open and they let the inmates run the asylum. That's what that time period was. So many people were hooked on like, well, Spielberg did this, like that. Dude, that's 50 years ago. That doesn't matter in today's world. So then like right now, you could be a YouTube star. And you could create a $2 or $3 million following on YouTube, and then make films that you just release on YouTube and make a living doing that. Rocket Jump did that. Yeah. I worked with the Rocket Jump boys. I studied how they did it. And I know a lot of the inside stuff of how they did it. But that's a different business model. And it wasn't a business model when they started. They just did it because I want to do this. Right. They were on YouTube in 2010 doing this stuff when nobody else was doing it. I was on YouTube in 2005. Don't even get me started why I didn't keep going down that road. But my ego got in the way. That was my problem.
That's insane, man. And I mean, everything that you're saying just makes a ton of sense. A ton of sense. You're preaching to me too, bud. And you're referencing I haven't heard every single episode that you've done on the Indie Film Hustle podcast, but I just heard your recent one, Why Filmmakers Are Programmed to Fail. That was a great one.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
I got to be honest, the first 5 minutes, I'm like, crap, what is this guy talking about the Matrix? Like, who am I about to interview? I'm like, oh my God, he's insane.
But then if you give it more than 5 minutes.
Yeah. Guys, past that 5-10 minute threshold, it'll get good. I promise you. He's not crazy.
And that's it. And I'm also taking risks, man. Like, look, there's nobody else talking about this stuff, and I felt like I need to do something that is different. And I want to serve my audience in a different way. And if I'm learning these things along the way, I want to share them with them. So how, the episode is called Why Are All Filmmakers Programmed to Fail? Is because of the mindset. It's because of what we do. It's the software, all that kind of stuff that we've been programmed with. And we're running on Windows 95 and we need to get up to the latest OS, baby.
And that's, it's coming. All that is playing into the whole, everything that you're saying, which makes a ton of sense. So, I mean, with everything you just said, I mean, going into you mentioned film school earlier. Do you think today, in this day and age, is it worth, because it doesn't seem like film school prices have gone down. Do you think that it's worth going to film school today?
I get asked this all the time, and I would say this. Film school, I think film schools in general are stuck in the old paradigm. They are not teaching what needs to be taught in today's world, period. I went to Full Sail in Orlando, and at the time, they taught me the technology that they had at the minute, which was cutting edge. But unfortunately, within a year of I was stuck. I got caught in the middle of the analog to digital world transition. So when the DV tapes came out, when nonlinear editing became a serious thing, when the Avid Media, it was called the Avid Media Composer Pro back in the day, when that showed up and people were like, wait a minute, I can edit now, or Lightworks or any of these kind of places or softwares. I was caught in that time period. So basically a lot of the stuff I learned at school was kind of useless. I was a nice foundation. Right. And also my education didn't cost that much. My education cost 18 grand, which in the grand scope of things is not a lot. It's still a lot of money if you put it out. Yeah, well, for education, I know a lot of people listening right now for 18 grand, they'll take a film education. Right. Now that same degree costs like 80 and 90,000 at Full Sail. Jeez. So what I feel is that if you can go to a film school, first of all, if you can afford it, it's a wonderful experience. If you don't have to have a loan, if you got scholarships, if you got mommy and daddy paying for it, it's a great experience. I love my film school years. I thought it was great. It was, bonding, you connect. I speak at USC a bunch a year, and that place is not even as much about the curriculum. It is a great film school, but it's about the contacts you make there, because everybody in that classroom is going to go do something in the business. And I've talked to a lot of USC grads, and that's exactly what happens. Is it worth the money? Absolutely not. Like in today's world, no. But two things. One, if you can afford it. Two, if you are the kind of person who needs someone to curate all the education for you, and you feel more safe in that environment and more of an academic situation, then film school is for you. Go to community colleges, go to workshops, seminars, keep the budgets low. If you can, get that information, if you want to get that tactile and like go out there with the cameras, and a lot of film schools gives you access to gear so you can go off and practice and stuff. There's definitely a lot of benefits to film schools, but not at these price points. It's insane. Some of these price points, I'm talking to guys who have $150,000, $200,000 in debt that they will never be able to get rid of. And you're basically walking around with a mortgage. And on top, so basically you have an anchor around your neck for your career. You know as well as I do that it's going to take at least 5 years in today's world, if you're a lucky one, to be able to make any sort of serious money in this business. To get a job, to build a production company, to do something. It's going to take time to even start making even decent amount of money. But during those 5 years, you're going to have to be paying this damn loan off. And then once you get that money off, you're going to have to it's an added weight that you don't need. Is there enough education out there right now to make a film? Absolutely. YouTube, online courses. I mean, just doing the master class from Ron Howard was like, I took that course. I was like, God, it was amazing. It was like, you see Ron sit there like, and shoot a scene 10 different ways with 10 budget riches. So he's like, okay, so if you have a lot of time for light, this is what you do. And you see this craftsman, whether you like his movies or not, Ron Howard is a craftsman. He is an amazing craftsman as far as a film director is concerned. And I learned so much watching him. But you got all of this access to education, all these books, podcasts, all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's so much information out there that you don't need it anymore. Where like when I was coming up, there was no other option. Like there was no information. It was a hidden secret. All I had was commentary tracks on laser discs, and then eventually DVDs and the Criterion Collection stuff. And then behind the scenes stuff that, like you got the making of Raiders of the Lost Ark or Star Wars. And you're like, oh my God, like you were so starved for this kind of stuff, where now everybody knows about everything about filmmaking. There's so much information out there. The people are still stuck in that old paradigm. They're still stuck in that old mindset of, I need this, and this. And by the way, for everyone listening, do you know how many times in my entire career, before I went, before I got some staff jobs, do you know how many times I've been asked for my degree?
Not one. Not
one time was I asked for my degree. Not once. No one cares. This is not a field that is destined by a degree. It's just not. If you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're an engineer, you're a dentist, you've got to go down that road because you need those credentials. In this business, you do not need the credentials. Trust me, being out here, everybody's an effing producer. All you got to do is get a business card and you're a producer.
There you go.
And now all of a sudden, now because everything's so cheap, I'm sure you'll appreciate this. I bought a red camera. I'm a DP now. What? I'm a DP because I bought my red camera and I took a couple courses. I'm a DP all of a sudden. Sure, I'm only 19, but I'm a DP. So, it's and for all the DPs out there who are 19 years old, I'm sorry. But when you're dealing with, I have a lot of good buddies of mine in the ASC, and they're just like, dude,
show me your work.
It takes time.
Right, of course.
It takes time to learn that craft.
So
yes, a long answer to a short question, sir.
No, I love it. I love it. All the information. I'm sure everyone online tuning in is just absorbing all this stuff. Like it's just so much. We already covered. I think. Back to This Is Meg. In terms of, I guess, distribution, so you made your film, you created it, you had a very small crew, if any, in any given day. You said it took 8 days to shoot. You
8 days
shot
to
it in
shoot.
4
We
days?
never shot more than 8 hours a day.
And post-production?
Oh, I edited that in I edited it in 2 weeks.
Crap.
Colored it in 4 weeks.
Okay. So
Because I was
in my head, editing, coloring, it's all together.
yeah, because the coloring was because I was like, I'm DPing this, so it's gotta look tight. Yeah, so I was doing digital DPing like crazy. I was just like slicing, dicing, and shadows.
I'm sure it helped speed up the process of editing, seeing as how you wrote it, you shot it, and everything. So you kind of had an idea of where you wanted it to go. It's not like you're coming in fresh and had to take a day or two to go through all the clips.
Oh no, exactly.
So you finished the film. How did you go about distribution of this film?
I decided to self-distribute.
Okay.
Because I just said I'm going to self-distribute this. So I went through an aggregator and I got it up on iTunes, on Amazon, and they submitted it to Hulu for me. And Hulu said, "Yeah, we'll buy it." So I got accepted by Hulu, which was a huge deal.
Yeah.
That Hulu bought a $5,000 feature film.
That's incredible.
And it was insane. And then we sold we made a good amount of money. We sold a bunch of it, sold it to my audience, and a lot of people who listen to me like search it out after they hear the story because they want to watch it. And then I was like, someone approached me about doing an international deal. So I was like, okay, what do you want to do? Because I had no access to real international distribution.
Mm-hmm.
So I sold off, but I signed a deal to do foreign sales. And in those foreign sales, we sold it to South Africa, to China, to the UK, which is again insane to me. I'm like, it's like insane. That's what I did. And then now we still have it on SVOD. It's on Indie Film Hustle TV as well as Amazon and iTunes and all those places. But it's accessible pretty much everywhere right now, and it's still being rented. People are still renting it, which is
for those of you. I'm definitely gonna have to take a look at that. For those of you that want to check that out, I found it on Amazon right off the bat. Mm-hmm. But what other platforms you said? Is it still on Hulu?
No, that was a year contract. So
okay,
it's off of Hulu now, but it's on iTunes, Amazon, any other Google Play, YouTube Movies, like anywhere that you can movies, it's there. And then on my platform, IFH TV.
Yeah, I'm gonna put links to all of that stuff on the show notes for this episode. Now the whole distribution thing, the financial aspect of it, like, I mean, you said it yourself. You spent like $5,000 on this film. I mean, what was more important to you afterwards? Making more money off of it, or more eyes seeing it?
That's always a tricky look. For me, it was about making money with it purely because I needed to show it to my audience that it could be done.
Right.
Because if you want eyes, man, you can just put it up on Amazon Prime, or you can put it up on YouTube. Like if you just want eyeballs on it, that's what will happen.
Okay.
I did not have any expectations of the movie. I did not have anything. I had no outcome to it, no attachment to outcome with the movie. So because of that freedom, I can make just decisions that generally you wouldn't make. So I just didn't care that if it got seen or didn't seen. I wanted to prove to my audience that you can go out there and make money with a movie and be profitable with a movie. And in the way that I did it. So I'm like, I basically made it so I can just tell everybody there's no more excuses. Like there's no more excuses, guys. That's it. I don't want to hear it because I did this. And my second film, which we'll talk about later, is even more of an extreme version of the first one.
So you did it again, even though.
Oh no, the second movie we did was it's called On the Corner of Ego and Desire, and it was shot in 4 days.
Crap.
At the Sundance Film Festival. So we actually went to the Sundance Film Festival and shot a film about filmmakers trying to sell a movie to a producer at the Sundance Film Festival. So it's like Spinal Tap for filmmakers. And I shot it on the pocket camera, not the new pocket camera, the 1080p pocket camera, because I also wanted to tell everybody you don't need 4K.
Yeah.
1080p is fine.
Yeah.
I had a great sound guy. I had one sound guy. I had my DP. This time I let somebody else DP it. And he was running the camera, and a buddy of mine was like running whatever else we need. So we had basically 3 crew members, myself and my cast, and we just ran around Sundance stealing every shot. We actually even went into the belly of the beast. We went into Sundance headquarters and shot 2 scenes.
Wow.
And we just didn't care. I didn't care.
Yeah.
And it was done at and by the way, it was done on the side. It was a side hustle because I was doing interviews. Yeah. So we had to stop shooting go back and do an interview, and then come. It was ridiculous. But we did it in 4 days, and that was the first time in my career where I did not know if I had anything. Like I saw a bunch of scenes, like I didn't. Is this? Do I have a movie? So I was so far out on the edge without a net that it was so exhilarating, so fun. So because again, I didn't care. I just didn't care. I cared about the movie, of course, and the art and making sure I got something good, but I didn't care about the outcome. I'm just playing. I'm just being an artist. And because we did it for about $3,000, it was great, you know? And I was like, I didn't have to worry about it. Like if this is a $300,000 movie, it's a whole other conversation. Right, but because I'm doing these movies for such a low budget, I can experiment. I can go out there and do whatever I want to do. And I personally love being out on the edge, like being where nobody has been before. Like no one's ever shot a feature film at Sundance, not a narrative feature film, at least, always documentaries. And if I may pitch the movie that they're trying to sell, because I really just wanted to make a love letter to the insane things that we do as filmmakers, the ego that we have, and also just every mistake I ever made, every mistake I ever heard made. I wanted to throw it all in there. So the pitch of the movie that they're actually trying to sell, because they have a finished movie. Okay. They're trying to find a producer, and they're hunting down this poor producer throughout Sundance. And the movie is Shape of Water meets E.T. with Transformers drizzled on top. Now it's shot in black and white. Some shots are upside down because I just wanted to get more of an artistic vibe to it. But, you know, really wanted to go this Truffaut and French New Wave vibe to it. But truly, I just want to be in the Criterion Collection.
Oh my gosh.
That's the pitch of the movie. And the name of the movie inside the movie is so just ridiculous. I don't remember it. I can't, if someone asks me, Alex, I'll give you $100 if you tell me what the name of the movie is inside the movie. I'm like, I don't remember. I think it's like something Neptune's Fury or something like it, but it's a long, like pretentious name. It was so, I wanted these filmmakers to be so far up their own butts that I wanted everybody to understand that I've just seen it so many times, and I lived it within myself so many times that we take ourselves so seriously, and we're filmmakers and we're doing this and that. I mean, like, I'm an artiste. I am the next this, I am the next that. And I wanted to kind of shatter that for everybody, because it's just such BS. Because the guys that you're talking about, the Spielbergs, the Nolans, they don't walk around like that.
Right.
They just do the work. They do the art. That's what they're there to do. Yeah. You know, they don't, God, don't even get me started. But that's what this movie was about. And I called it On the Corner of Ego and Desire, because I walked out of the place we were staying at Park City. And that year, Sundance had a bunch of words like all over the like banners of words, and one of them was like hustle and believe and all that stuff. And I walked out and I looked up, I'm like, hey guys, look, we're on the corner of ego and desire. I was like, hey, that's a great name for this movie. I was like, perfect. And it's like, because look, we all are as filmmakers on the corner of ego and desire.
Yeah. And
it's so true, because we desire what we want, but ego gets in the way so often. So that's the second movie.
That's incredible, man. That's so good. When is that coming out? Do you have a?
Yeah. We're going to be releasing it. I'm going to probably be releasing. We're going to be doing some sort of release here in LA in the next month. I think probably in April is what we're planning to do that, and then it will be released shortly thereafter on Amazon, iTunes, everywhere you can get it up. I think first Amazon first. And then we'll go out to iTunes and Google Play and YouTube, and it'll be on IFH TV as well.
Fantastic, man. So I understand you're also a writer. So
I am, sir.
That is also added on your resume. Talk to me a little bit about that. You're a writer. Come on, that word hustle is just getting bigger and bolder. Talk to me about your writing career now.
Yeah. So I've always been a writer in the screenwriting standpoint, but I've never written a book.
Got it.
But I have now recently written a book, which I handily have here, called, look at that, Shooting for the Mob, which is if you bear with me, I will tell you the best way for me to explain what the book is about is just by reading the quick synopsis of it, because it's the best way to do it. A bipolar gangster, a naive young film director, and Batman. What could go wrong?
Okay.
Alex Ferrari is a first-time film director who just got hired to direct a $20 million feature film. The only problem is the film is about Jimmy, an egomaniacal gangster who wants the film to be about his life in the mob. From the backwater towns of Louisiana to the Hollywood Hills, Alex has taken on a crazy misadventure through the world of the mafia and Hollywood. Huge movie stars, billion-dollar producers, studio heads, and of course, a few gangsters populate this unbelievable journey down the rabbit hole of chasing your dream. Would you sell your soul to the devil to make your dream come true? By the way, did I mention that the story is based on true events? No, seriously, it is.
Man, that's pretty cool. So it's a narrative.
Yeah, it's a narrative book. It's based on my true. Yeah,
Right.
it's basically an autobiography of that time in my life, and it took me 18 years. I was 26 when this happened. I was in early 2000s, and I was, like it says, I was hired by this gangster who was a real mobster who had spent time in prison. He was a rehabilitated mobster, and for everyone listening, I put up air quotes. So I got hired to do this, and it seemed legitimate for a long time, and I just like kind of got myself into it little by little. And by the time I figured out that there was something wrong in Denmark, I was already caught up in the web. And I was like, oh man, I'm like, I can't get out now. And I was in a weird place in my, not a weird place. I was 26. I was green as hell. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't have any experience, any backbone, anybody to kind of guide me through that process. So I was on my own in this experience. And it was kind of like going to work every day with Joe Pesci from Goodfellas. Like you don't know who you're going to get. Well, like when he's fun, man, it was a ball to hang out with him. Like he was hilarious. He tell great stories. It was just a ball. But some days he just, we just like, you just don't know who you're going to get. Someone's going to tear your head off. So, our production offices were in a racetrack. No joke. So it was like this 1950s racetrack. So it looks like something out of the Rat Pack, so that's where our production office is at. Like my crew, for crew meetings, I would literally put together cocktail tables and sign up and sit in cocktail because our offices were an old rundown cocktail bar. So I mean, I can't even tell you. So that was enough of a story, but then Hollywood actually took them seriously. So I was flown out to LA. I was flown out and I met huge movie stars. I'm at the Chateau Marmont having drinks, while I'm surrounded by celebrities. I'm at the Ivy. I'm at the Spago's. I'm going to, places like Mark Wahlberg's over there and Bruce Willis is over there. Is that Arnold Schwarzenegger? Like, what the hell is going on?
Wow.
And so I go through so all of this stuff. And if you want, I'll tell you one story later about a director in this. But so I'm going through all of this and I'm meeting like literally, do you remember the movie True Romance? Tarantino's and Tony Scott's movie, True Romance?
I remember it. Uh-huh.
Yeah. The end of that movie, when they go to meet the producer with a big shootout and all that stuff, I was in like that room, basically. Like I was in a producer like that at that caliber who's doing, big movies. And I'm sitting there with him in his penthouse with, glass walls, seeing all of LA, all of Hollywood, talking to him for like 2 hours about movies, like going into his screening room and showing him the trailer that I made for this movie. Like I'm living the dream, but at the same time, I'm getting verbally abused, a little physically abused, not too much, but just a little bit, a little roughed up, nothing crazy, but every day. So my spirit, like I'm like literally almost about to go bankrupt. So I'm broke and broken, like literally. So, it took me forever to get out of it. Obviously I survived, so I'm here. But it took me 2 years of depression. Like imagine being so close to everything you've ever wanted. And literally I'm literally 3 feet away from Batman. One of the actors who played Batman, I'm flown out to his Wayne Manor. And I'm literally sitting there talking to Batman and just talking to him about his career, the movie. He wants me to hang out. I'm like, can you imagine this? At 26, you're a kid. Like I'm a kid that, at least I was a kid who just didn't know anything. So it was one of the toughest experiences of my life. And writing the book, and it's not like I sat around thinking about the story for a decade. You know, I hadn't even heard Jimmy's voice for 10 years till I heard it one day on a radio, and which caused me to write the book. And Boris, who is the main character in this, was my DP. He's now an ASC DP. But back then, he was the one that saved me. Like, he was the one that like taught me, and he's like from Eastern Europe. So you know, he was talking to me about foreign films and all this kind of craziness. It was wonderful. But he was there to help me. And he's the one that's been bugging me for years. Like, my friend, he talks like Borat. So it's like a watered down Borat. It's like, my friend, you need to write this screenplay. I'm like, I'm not going to read it. I'm not writing a screenplay. What am I going to do? Go chase money for a movie about a mobster and a filmmaker? Like, and it's a period piece. So it's going to take, I can't make this for $3,000. So like, why am I going to do that? And he's like, well, write a book. And I'm like, son of a, I can write a book. So I at that point said, okay, I'll write the book. And it took me a year to write it because I was on and off, and I literally would skip chapters completely because I knew where I had to really go there. And if I wrote it, I wanted to be as raw as humanly possible. And this is an extremely raw book. It's kind of like the companion piece for Rebel Without a Crew. Like, the Rebel Without a Crew is a success story. This is how that story goes wrong. Wow. So it's a wonderful companion piece. It should be required reading at all film schools throughout the world. Anybody who's thinking about getting into the business needs to read the book, because I wanted to make it as an allegory of what not to do when you're chasing your dreams. And that's the thing. So many people sell their souls. They just eat a little bit more crap just for that opportunity. Like, there's people right now in LA, as I speak right now, in being talked to you, there's guys right now and girls right now being abused by their bosses, by their agents, by whatever. Wow. And they're taking it because they just want to take that. Maybe this is going to get me to that next place. And this is maybe going to get me to the next place. And maybe being this guy's assistant, who's a big time director, big time producer, is going to get me the opportunity that I want to get to in the next year. It's where it happens. And I wanted to it's just the reality of the business. So I wanted a book to show, and a story to show people that, one, it's always a choice. If you're in a bad situation, whether in the business or in life, you can choose to leave it. And I was in a bad situation. I just didn't have the backbone. I didn't have this energy. I was literally broken after this. I did not have the energy or any kind of strength to leave the situation. I had been beaten down so much psychologically that I couldn't do it. But what was fascinating when I finished writing the book, not only was it cathartic, by the way, I was crying through scenes. Like, I'd be typing, I'd be crying because I'm going back. Like, who wants to go back to the worst time in their life and live there for a year? That's what I did. And I would cry sometimes while I did some scenes because it was like, oh my God, I'm like feeling it. It's all coming back up. It's bubbling up. What I found so interesting was people always ask me, was it cathartic? I'm like, of course it was cathartic. But I didn't know how cathartic it was because a weight was lifted off of me when I wrote this, but I didn't know that I was carrying the weight. And subconsciously, this one moment in my life had dictated all of my decisions, including possibly not making a feature film earlier, including all of these decisions I made in my career. The fear that I had was all based a lot probably on this, unbeknownst to me. That's the scary thing, that I did not have any consciousness of it. Like I told you, I wasn't sitting around going, poor me for 10 years. I didn't even think about it. So that's what this book did for me. And I really hope it helps people. People who've read it so far really love it. And it's a hell of a, it's all not, by the way, all doom and gloom. It's hilarious. It's ridiculous. The situations, I'll tell you that one story I'm going to tell you about the director, and I'll tell you who the director is off air. But I'm at this, and the story is in the book. I'm at this restaurant. I don't even know what the name of this restaurant is, but like, it's one of my LA trips. And Jimmy, the gangster, and me are waiting to have dinner with an Oscar-winning actor. And we're sitting there and we're waiting by the bar to get seated. The actor's not there yet, but like, I'm looking around and there's like these actors everywhere and it's movie stars and everything. All of a sudden, the biggest director of the day, like the hot director, young hot director of the day, and you guys could probably figure it out, it's 2001. So it comes in with his supermodel girlfriend, and Jimmy turns over and goes, "Hey kid, you want to see something funny?" I'm like, yeah, sure, Jimmy, what is it? And he just turns to the director, and as the director gets close, he goes, hey, Bobby, how you doing? That director turned pale effing white, started to shake, and I believe he peed himself a little bit. I'm not kidding you. By him just saying hello. And he started to back up, going, oh, hi, Jimmy. How you doing, babe? Hi, man. All right, I got to go. And he bolted out there, grabbed his supermodel girlfriend, and bolted.
Wow.
And I'm like, what the hell happened? I'm like, and Jimmy just couldn't stop laughing. He's like, I'll tell you the story. And the story is in the book. I'll how that happened. Like, you got to read the book. But that's a tease. That's a tease. But that's the kind of people I was hanging with. And I was like, and the story is so insane how he dealt with this director years, like when he was a kid and stuff. Dude, I don't even want to tell you. It's just insane. These stories are ridiculous. So I had so many of these stories in a notebook. I actually wrote down a notebook back then because I knew I would do something with it one day. So I wrote down a lot of ideas and notes and stuff. And here came the book. So I'll stop talking because I'll keep talking forever, man.
Hey, that's insane. Those stories are crazy. I want to get the book. When does the book release?
Technically, the book is available on Amazon right now. Oh, okay. So you can get it on Amazon and on Barnes & Noble right now if you order it. We're just getting a couple things fixed on the books. It's some spelling errors and stuff that I wanted to get fixed. Okay. So it might be a couple days
or something.
Yeah, like slightly. But it's available now. So if you could pre-order it right now on Amazon, if you go to shootingforthemob.com, shooting with 2 O's, it's there. Or just Amazon and type up Shooting for the Mob and I'll show up.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm going to have links to all that stuff in the show notes for this episode, man. That's insane.
Yeah.
Let's get into the Indie Film Hustle podcast now. So
yeah, man.
The hustle word just gets bigger. You have a podcast. You have a podcast that I'm not quite sure how often you post on that, but it's just a ton of information. A ton. You have a ton of.
I do 2 episodes a week. Yeah, 2 episodes a week. I do on that podcast. On my screenwriting podcast, I do it once a week mostly.
That's crazy. That's insane. Like, where do you find the time in the day to just do everything? Is it like just make sure you're organized, disciplined, a mixture of both?
I think it's a mixture of both, but the thing is that I actually did a whole episode on my routine because so many people keep asking me, like, how the hell do you do this? Like, what do you do? Like, are you superhuman? And people keep thinking that like I work 18, 20-hour days and all this stuff. Like, no, man, I'm a family man. I got kids. I take them to school. I at 6 o'clock, I clock out, and I'm with family. And on weekends, I barely do anything. So I just am organized, but I also, in that episode, I break down 24 hours because so many people give me excuses like, oh man, well, I can't do that because I've got a commute or I got family. I'm like, okay, let's break down 24 hours for you real quick. And I'll show you how we could do it. All right. I wake up at 4 o'clock. You don't have to wake up at 4 o'clock, but I wake up at 4 o'clock. So let's say you get 6 hours sleep. That's 6. I think in my example, I gave him 7 hours sleep.
Okay.
That's more than enough. I get around 5.5 to 6 hours sleep. I'm good. I'm golden at that time period. So I said, all right, so you get 7 hours sleep. Then I'm going to give you an hour to get ready and go and get out, like shower, breakfast. I'm going to give you an hour. That's way too much, but I'm going to give you an hour. So that's 8 hours.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to give you an hour commute, man. I'm going to give you an hour commute there and an hour commute back. That's another 2 hours, right? Mm-hmm. So where are we? We're at 10 hours now?
Roughly.
10 hours. Yeah. 10 hours. Okay, great. Now you work an 8-hour day, right? So now you're at 18 hours. You get home, and so 18 hours. So you got what? 6 hours left, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you've got 2 hours. I'm going to give you 2 hours for family. Dinner, family, spend time with the kids, put them to bed. If you have kids. If you don't, I'm going to give you 2 hours just to hang out with family, friends, stuff like that. You got 4 hours left. Okay. And there's somewhere in there you sleep. I forget. But and I might do the math. I might be doing the math wrong. But within that time period, are you there?
My video just went off. But go ahead, keep going. I'm gonna keep you locked in there. Go ahead.
All right, cool. So the bottom line is that at the end of that mathematical situation that I gave them, you had about 3 hours left to do any side hustle you want to do. So educate yourself. I mean, during that 2 hours of commute, you should be listening to audiobooks, listening to podcasts, watching courses, taking courses. Educate yourself, learn what you're doing, learn the craft, work, do all sorts of things. And you have options to do all of that. So there's no excuses. And I don't want to hear people like, oh, I have a busy life. You don't want to do it. You want to watch Game of Thrones. That's your choice. You want to veg out watching Netflix. That's your choice. But if your dream is important to you, you figure out a way to get it done, period.
Right.
And that's what I finally decided to do with my life. I was like, you know what? I'm going to just chase my dream. And I still watch TV. I still put an hour or so in TV time, but I've also gotten to a point early on in indie film hustle. I was hustling hard. And then slowly but surely, I started to like balance my life and organize it more to a point where like, okay, but now I had already done a lot of the heavy lifting at the beginning of it. And now I can kind of still work a lot. I still outwork most people that I know because I just hustle and I'm always working. I'm trying to work hard, and I'm not only working hard, but to work smart too. Just don't like keep pounding your head against the wall and stuff like that. So, but that's basically how I do it, man. And now I've been blessed that indie film hustle is my job. So this is my full-time gig.
Wow.
Yeah, I direct when jobs come. I don't do post-production anymore because I just decided not to do it anymore. So I think I did one job last year. It was a friend of mine that asked me, and it was good payday, and it was a few days. So I said, sure, I'll do it. But other than that, I don't do post-production anymore. This is my job, and I'm blessed, I'm humbled, but it's a wonderful thing to be able to do.
That's insane. That's awesome, man. And I do appreciate all the content that you put out there, man. It's very helpful for filmmakers like myself and other filmmakers out there, aspiring filmmakers, people that just want to get it done. I think this stuff is so valuable for them to listen to. And it's a big reason why I was super excited to have you on the show, because essentially that's kind of how, I've been kind of doing this whole thing where I didn't go to film school. I don't have a background in, I don't know, film history, the film appreciation. I don't know any of that stuff. I found something that I love to do. And my whole story quick is, I was playing football in college. I picked up my laptop, started editing, fell in love with it, did it for my church for years and years, never even thought about making money for it. I just did it because I loved it. A friend of mine just said, just do it for money. And, little by little, just kept teaching myself everything. And, still learning, making connections, just like how I met you, and just learning from other people. And it's just fantastic how we're able to have those kinds of connections. Again, not going to film school, not doing any of this stuff, just making connections, listening to the right people, absorbing the right things. And it's just fantastic how things like that work. And so, congratulations on, I guess, building your platform. That's a huge accomplishment that you can do this full time now, which is terrific. Terrific. Do you plan to make more films and continue to kind of just do side films, side projects like that, passion projects?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm going to be really focused on really building up my company and building up Indie Film Hustle, and being of as much service as I can to my tribe and my community, and to anybody who comes along and listens to any of my content or watches any of my content. That's going to be my focus for probably the next year. I got a book that I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to be doing some tours. I'm going to be doing some book signings and lecturing. I'm going to be doing a lot more speaking coming up in the coming year as well. So I'm kind of doing a lot more of that stuff. I'm hoping to, because I do own the rights to the book.
Okay.
So, I would love to make the movie. And I've had people already ask me, it's like, so when's the movie coming out? Or like, I've had producers talk to me about it already. I'm like, understand. But I always tell people, understand something. I don't care if Martin effing Scorsese wants to direct this. This is my movie.
Right.
And I'm not trying to be ego. It's like, this is my story. Right. I've got to tell it. But don't think it's fallen on deaf ears that now I make fun of Jimmy because he wants to make a movie about his life and he's producing it.
Right.
Now, yet I'm going to make a movie about my life, and I'm not only going to produce it, I'm also going to direct it and write it.
Wow.
So it's and then my DP has to be Boris. So then it's going to be both of us. So I think that the day that there's a scene between me and Boris in the story, and both of us are behind the camera, I think when I yell action, the space-time continuum will blow up.
Wow.
Because it's just going to be so meta. It's not even going to be funny.
My goodness. That's awesome, man. That's terrific. Like what you've done and how you've built your business. Let's get a little nerdy and let's talk about gear. What's your whole thing with terms of cameras and whatnot? I mean, you did mention that you're a colorist, so I'm assuming, I'm putting it out there, I'm assuming that you like cameras that give you a lot of color depth and things like that. Like, do you have a preferred camera do you like to shoot in? Does it depend on the project? What's your whole deal with that?
I've shot on everything, and I've color graded everything. I personally like Blackmagic cameras. I really do love them. I love Alexa. I think Alexa is a beautiful image, but Alexa is a bigger, the workflow is a little bit more complicated when you want to deal with RAW. Red is a little bit more complicated when you want to deal with RAW. Red is also a great camera, but I've recently kind of fallen in love more with the softer look of Alexas and Blackmagics, which honestly are very interchangeable in many ways. Alexa is still a better camera. There's no question about it. And the Blackmagic guys will tell you, like, look, it's an $80,000 camera versus a $5,000 camera.
Right.
But shoot both of them down the middle. I challenge you to tell me which is which.
Right.
Like the same thing, same lenses. Let's see what happens. And I've done that test, and I've never been able to tell. And I know a lot of other people cannot tell either. If you shoot it down the middle, the Blackmagic is probably the best bang for your buck without question. And because I'm already in the ecosystem of DaVinci and the post ecosystem, it just makes the most sense to work with Blackmagic cameras. So I have a Ursa Mini. I've got a 2.5K. I've got a old pocket camera, and I just got a brand new 4K pocket camera, which I haven't even opened yet. And I'm dying to get, because I'm like, oh, this is my jam right here. It's like, oh, this is gonna be it right here.
Incredible that a camera that came out into the market at the price point. What is it, like $1,200?
It's $1,200 or $1,300, something like that, and it comes with DaVinci Resolve, and it's 4K, and it's RAW.
Jeez.
And you could put I think we even could put the old Metabones on it, so the speed booster on it, so you could put EF mount glass on it.
Right. What do you think of the new Blackmagic Raw that they just released?
I haven't played with it yet, but if it's Blackmagic did it, it's awesome, I'm sure.
Dude, I mean, essentially replacing. I haven't shot Blackmagic the DNG. Their DNG files are.
Oh, I did.
The RAW. How big are those files?
It was always a headache, man. They're huge files. They're pigs. They're just pigs of files. They're just monstrous files. And I always talk to them about, I'm like, dude, you guys got to do something about that DNG. Like Red had the best, until Blackmagic Raw, Red had the best RAW file. Compression to get the image. It was solid. Like Alexa couldn't touch it. And Alexa still can't touch it on a compression working with, working within the, within a workflow situation.
Got it.
But the Blackmagic, man, whew, good times.
So yeah, now they replaced it. Now they have their Blackmagic Raw, and it's called Bra. Apparently, they're calling it Bra. I'm shooting in Bra.
It's very Point Break.
Yeah, man, it's so enticing. And with the release now of the G2 Ursa Mini, oh my gosh, like it's so attractive just because like you got 4.6K at 120 frames per second in Blackmagic Raw. That is just insane. How they're pushing that meter, that oh my gosh, like the standard is getting higher and higher. Now
yeah, you're right. That's going to be the new standard. And the thing is that Blackmagic is like, I talk to the tech guys, like I talk to the lab guys who are like in the lab, the geeks putting it all together. And they literally just figure it out. Do you know how they came up with the price point for the pocket camera? This is literally how they came up with it. Because I was talking to the guys at NEB, and they're like, I'm like, why do you do it so cheap? And they're like, oh, well, because, you know, we're not trying to make the most expensive camera in the world, but we're not the cheapest. But we also want to just give you the best bang for your buck. So as a company, as a culture, we want to be able to put the tools in the filmmaker's hands. So what they did was they literally are around at the dinner table, and they're like, all right, so like the president and a couple of the other heads, like, how much are we going to charge for this thing? And they're like, I don't know, $1,000. Like, nah, we can't do $1,000, man. We got to make some money on this. So we can't do $1,000. Like, Someone's like, how about $2,000? No, that's too expensive, man. That's way too expensive. Can't do $2,000. And like they whittled it down to like, it was 50, 1,600, 1,500. And then it got down to, I think it's $1,399 if I'm not mistaken. And they're like, how about we do $1,399 and we'll give them DaVinci Resolve for free. And they're like, all right, we'll do that. And literally on a top down napkin, that's how that conversation went down.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
Because it's not about like, you know, when these other companies go into it, they're like, how much money can we squeeze out of the filmmaker? How much can we, like, what's the profit margin? What's the numbers? Like, what can we do? They look at it. Most companies look at very short-term goals, where a company like Blackmagic looks at very long-term goals. And and because of their long-term vision, they are slowly, look, don't forget, man, Blackmagic's only been around for a little bit. Like it's like a serious player. Like, remember when the cinema camera came out, the 2.5K cinema camera came out?
Yeah.
That was a game-changing camera. Like people were like, what the hell? Like, where'd this come from? And then the Pocket came out, and then all these other I always equate Blackmagic with the Apple of cameras. Like, they have that kind of innovative culture, and they're doing stuff that nobody else is doing. They're not competing with it. They're not trying to compete with Alexa. They're not trying to compete with Red. They're going to be like, we're going to talk volume, and we're going to put as many of these out there as possible. Like, Alexa does not give a heck about any of us down here.
Yeah, the small
at the street level. They don't care, because that's not their business model. Their business model is Hollywood, big DPs, all of that kind of stuff, because that's what they know. And God bless, do that. Red used to be the consumer guy. But they have now gotten to the point where now all their cameras, you can't even look at a Red for less than 20 grand. Not a real one, you know, because maybe just the camera bought it. But once you pimp it out, because you have to pimp it out to do something with it. You're looking at 25, 30 grand. So those days are numbers. Sony, let's not even talk about. Let's not even talk about Panasonic. They're trying, but they can't. You know, and then the GHs and stuff like that. Those are great, but they're a pain in the ass. Like I had when I sold it, like the Sony A7S II. I bought it. I tested it. I couldn't believe the light. Like, it was like, oh my God, this thing looks it's ridiculous. But then I like opened up the menu. I'm like, oh, I'm shipping this thing back, because the Sony menus are ridiculous. It's like 450,000 menus to like kind of get in there and like,
they're not known for their menu.
Right. But you look at a Blackmagic camera, what is it? A child could do it. A child can run their operating system. It
does remind me, and I was telling you, I was playing around with DaVinci today. It really reminds me of Final Cut 10, like in like its layout and whatnot. It's very user friendly, a lot more so than Premiere Pro, which is what I currently edit on. All my
I never jumped on Premiere Pro because I couldn't, because I'm old enough to remember when Premiere was a horrible program, and I'm not a fan of Adobe and their business model and how they, they're a company that's just trying to suck money out of the filmmaker as well. Yeah. And I'm sorry, Adobe is obviously not my sponsor, so I could care less.
Wait for the comments. Wait for the comments. Here they come.
I just don't like. After Effects is awesome. Photoshop is awesome. They make good products. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, but the way the business model, the way they've treated filmmakers over the years, it seems a lot of times it seems like it's a money grab. A lot of times. Yeah. So I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of that kind of stuff. I'd rather I'd rather do something like Blackmagic, which, and again, I'm not sponsored by Blackmagic. I'm just a fan. But the thing is that they have the capability to give away their software because it's not their business model. They're a hardware guy. They make more money with Decklink and connectors and converters than they do with cameras. But once you get in their ecosystem, you start buying their stuff, and it's all of a sudden that one customer turns into thousands of dollars worth of purchases because they have the goodwill to give away software. That's extremely powerful, and they have all the right in the world to charge $5,000 for that type of software.
Yeah, I was looking at that. It seems like a very expensive software, but yeah, it seems like they don't mind giving it out like that.
No, they don't. They don't mind because it's part of their business model. And then if you want to like buy the professional version, which is basically just another 5% of usability, it's $299. Like,
right?
Or I think $199 now. I don't know, something like that.
Well, do you think that would justify Adobe? I guess, charging for their platform, seeing as how they don't make products like Blackmagic, they don't make converters, they don't make cameras, you know, things like that.
Yeah, I get that, and that's why I understand their business model.
Somehow, you know.
I understand their business model. I understand Avid's business model. No, but they had another business model before. They switched to the membership business model.
Sure. Everybody's doing that now.
Right. And that to a certain extent is good, but to another certain extent, I like because now you have to, like, you can't just make an investment once. You got to be you're on that teat. Yeah. Forever.
I mean, I honestly, I mean, I don't know how it was before, but from what I understand, you used to have to pay like $900 to buy a program and then pay it again when they get a new version of that program. Is that how it was before?
It was like, no, it was like $700 or $800 for like a piece of software. Yeah. But then if it was upgraded, it was like another $100 to upgrade or something like that. You know what? Financially, it might make more sense.
Right.
I'm just an old school guy. I don't like to be reliant on a company to tell me what I can do with my business. And it's like, in other words, if I don't pay you for this monthly software, it's just a mental thing, dude. It's honestly, it's potato. Gotcha. At the end of the day, it might make much more financial sense to do memberships.
Sure.
But also, by the way, I'm also not talking about what they're doing currently. I'm also talking about how they just beat up filmmakers back in the day, charging $900,000. Why? Because they're a software company.
That was insane. Yeah. I mean, also remember, you remember back in the day, even you, like, softwares used to cost, you said Avid, even Blackmagic, Resolve software was like $1 million software. Like,
it wasn't software, it was hardware. Like, you had to buy a suite. Oh, wow. It was a suite. You needed all this thing just to be able to get up and running. Yeah. And Avid still is that expensive. Why? And I love the reason why is because this is their business model. They don't know any better. Yeah. I'll tell you this, and anyone listening, I'd love to hear comments. And if anyone has questions, I'll be more than happy to answer it.
Yeah.
I actually talked to the Avid guys and I said, dude, what the heck, man? Like, I worked on a multi-million-dollar show for Hulu and we were editing on Avid. The Avids were, and I'm not kidding you, the Avids were 7 years old. Okay. They had to hire a company to install the Avids, to maintenance the Avids. And we couldn't do basic stuff that you could do on your phone now.
Wow.
Like, hey, let's throw a key in there real quick. Nah, sorry, we can't do that. You can't render it. Can you export out a reference file? That's going to take about 6 hours. So, like, it was all this because it was old technology. It was like 2010 stuff it was just insane. And then it never worked with DaVinci. So, like, it doesn't talk well with others. It doesn't play well. So I asked them, I go, why, guys, dude, it took them forever to accept Red. Remember? Like, it took forever for Red to be a thing.
Well, I was never on Avid, so I never had that issue.
It was a thing. It took forever for them to deal with a raw file or any of that stuff. So I was asking him, like, why didn't you do? It's like, look, man, we are a battleship or a carrier. For us to turn the ship, we turn extremely slow. And I go, why is that? He goes, because our core business is studio. All the studios, all the people in Hollywood, if you want to be an editor in LA and you want to work for studios, networks, all of that, it has to be Avid because that's what they have entrenched in their systems. And a lot of the older editors of the older generation are just used to editing Avid. You tell an editor to change their editing system that they've been editing on for 20 years, and they're amazing Oscar-winning editors, and you tell them, no, you need to change to Final Cut or Premiere or DaVinci. So because of that mentality, they're stuck in this slow-moving thing where someone like DaVinci doesn't care. So they'll just change things on a dime. Premiere will change things on a dime. Final Cut will change things on a dime because they don't have this infrastructure to have to support. That's why.
But how's it going to work out? I mean, is that still the case today? Like, how's that going to work out? I mean,
it's going to be that way for a little while longer. I don't foresee, unless Avid decides to change, they're going to go to the Blockbuster graveyard.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's the only logical outcome that can come from that kind of mindset.
They couldn't look. Final Cut destroyed them. Final Cut Pro, when it came out, destroyed not X, but 7 and below, destroyed Avid. destroyed them because they were the big boy in town. Premiere was nothing. They were nothing. Like they weren't even at that point, they were nothing. Media 100 was nothing.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have any market share. Final Cut was like, oh, okay, we're going to give you this whole suite for $1,000. And at that point, people were like, $1,000.
$1,000.
Avid's costing us $75,000 just to open the damn box.
Freaking A.
All right. So it was insane. So with that said, they didn't know how to deal with it. And for a long time, they were on the ropes. They were on the ropes because people started switching over to Final Cut and switching over to Final Cut because it was so cheap. Even studios and even networks were starting to jump to Final Cut. But a lot of these older editors and older supervisors and stuff, it was a workflow they knew. It was a machine they knew. They did not want to change or innovate. And they didn't need to because their workflow worked. I was talking to people that worked on 24, working on big studio network shows, editing on Avid, old Avids, not new Avids, old Avids. Why? Because it was the workflow they knew and it was solid for them. But that was just the way it was. So will that change? Oh, and then, so basically after Final Cut, X debacle happened.
Right.
When that came out, and it was the worst launch of a software ever.
A lot of people were not happy about that. But from what I understand, that was, I guess, intentional in terms of their direction. I don't think that I don't think that they were still targeting the professional filmmakers. They're targeting more, I guess, YouTubers and whatnot, because I know a lot of them still use them. But
no. Final Cut X actually is a great piece of software now, and it is a very, very powerful piece of software now. It took them a while, but they just literally upended everything. It was kind of like, okay, so you've been cooking chicken this way all your life, but now you're going to use lasers.
They changed everything.
They changed everything. So people were like, where's my timeline? Where's that? And it just freaked everybody out.
When that was released. So I started this whole editing thing when 10 was released. Just missed 7, and I started on 10.
So Premiere was Final Cut was eating Premiere's lunch, and Premiere wasn't good. So the Final Cut guy left Apple, went to Premiere, went to Adobe. So then Premiere's like, wait a minute, hey, everyone who's pissed off at Final Cut, come with us.
Yeah.
And they took market share. And then Avid came in and like, okay, look, guys, we're stable, we're not changing. And then the studios went back to them. So those two have the market share, but Premiere has more of the market share. But now the upstart of this little Blackmagic Australian company giving away this extremely powerful software for free that can compete. They have the #1 color grading software in the world, period. Everyone colors on it. Then they threw an editing system, and then they threw a VFX. They have Fusion in there now, so they threw a VFX system in there for free. Then they also threw an audio system, like a Pro Tools, in there for free. So now this suite is free.
Yeah.
Or $299. Do you see what? Do you see where now that model of Adobe does not make sense anymore? Because you could buy it for $299 and it's yours, and it's free upgrades,
free market
for life. You see what I'm saying? So that's why it doesn't make sense. I understand Adobe's point of view. I understand what they're trying to do. It's their business, and they're trying to do what they can.
I honestly, after seeing these past 2 days, like messing around with Resolve, seeing all the stuff that they have on there is fantastic. I definitely do see, I guess, Adobe having to do something. I don't think it's anywhere close yet in terms of where they're gonna have to make a decision, but if it continues like that, and I am seeing people more and more going to Resolve. I have friends that tell me go to Resolve already. Obviously I'm comfortable, I have no reason to go, but after messing with it, and I love color. I love color grading. I love coloring. It's the funnest part of editing for me. I see the flexibility that you have, but now I see that I don't have to export an XML, import it.
There's no round tripping, baby. It's all in house. Yes. So there's no reconnection issues. There's no the EDL's not working or that this audio file. It's all there. Yeah, it's all there. It's a beautiful system. And with that, something like that exists, that's why the other models don't work for me. Because all of those things, if you just want to learn those tools, Fusion is everywhere is good or better than Adobe. Editing system, solid. Graphics, solid. Audio, solid. Color grading, best in the world. Exports to every freaking format ever. Oh, and by the way, because it's a color grading system and an online system, at its heart, it reads every kind of file ever. So you can throw any kind of file in there and it's not going to freak it out.
Wow.
That's not going to happen in Premiere. That's not going to happen in other programs where if you throw in a weird AVI or or MPEG-4 with JPEG 2000 compression or some stupid thing like that, it won't freak out. This handles it because it's an online color system.
That's terrific, man. That's incredible. And you know what? As we come to a close here soon, actually circling back to your career, I totally forgot to ask you a question. So we're gonna go back real quick to the hustle part here. I forgot to ask you about the Indie Film Hustle TV.
Yes.
Tell me about that. That was very interesting. I saw the trailer before getting on here for the first time. Tell me what that is. What are you doing with that? How's that going?
Yeah, so Indie Film Hustle TV is the world's first streaming service dedicated to filmmakers, screenwriters, and content creators. I wanted to create a Netflix for filmmakers. So a place where you can go see movies about making movies, documentaries about making movies, TV shows about making movies, or acting or artistic things or anything that deals within the creative field, but focused obviously on screenwriting and on filmmaking. Not only do all of that, but then have making ofs, those beautiful behind the scenes, commentary tracks, all of that stuff. And then also add in courses, education, full-blown courses that normally would cost hundreds of dollars somewhere else. You have access to it here. And I wanted to put it all there. So it's kind of like Netflix meets Masterclass, all in one thing for filmmakers. And it could be streamed obviously online anywhere in the world, but we have it also on Apple TV, on Roku, on Fire TV. The Google app is available. The Android app is available now. The Apple app is about to be, we're just finishing up the approval process with Apple. And then we're going to be on Samsung TV soon and a bunch of other apps we're working on as well. So it's accessible everywhere. Wow. And there's nothing like it on the planet. And I've got members from all over the world because I wanted a place that because I live in LA, I live in Hollywood. So everything's accessible to us. You're here in the States too. You're in Miami. You have access to a lot of stuff. A lot of places around the world do not have access to everything that we have access to. So I wanted to give them a place where they could just have a one-stop shop to like, look, here's everything I need. And every week we put up new content. Every Friday I put up new, we do stand-up comedy. So we have all these stand-up comedy specials as well, documentaries about that, because it's all about artists and actors and things like that doing what they do. So every week we put up courses, movies, TV show episodes, all that kind of stuff. Every week we have something new. So yeah, if anybody wants to sign up, it's at indiefilmhustle.tv, and it's going really well. It's growing every day. We're jumping every month, 20, 30% growth, if not more, wow, depending on the month. So it's growing. And I really even haven't had time to really market it. Like I haven't had time to like you don't go on Facebook and can't get away from it yet. That day is coming very soon. So I'm just not, because I'm focused on my book. I'm focused on a million other things. So that's going to happen as well. And I wanted to get out to everyone because I just, again, wanted to be of service to my community. And I felt that this is something that was needed. And people really love it. People who are like it stay. We have a really great retention rate. Like we don't have many people that drop out. So it's a monthly or a yearly. So you could buy it for the year at a discounted rate, or you could buy it monthly. It's $13.99 a month, which is a bargain.
Damn, dude, that's a list. That's a laundry list of things that you have under your belt, man. And I got to tell you, from one filmmaker to another, I really do appreciate that you're putting all that stuff out there.
Thank you, brother.
That's incredible. The amount of things that you were able to do in such a short period of time, really, because you really started. I mean, when did you start Indie Film Hustle? Was it 2015?
Yeah, 2015. In July, August, it's gonna be 4 years. So it's about 3.5 years. So that's it.
You just went at it, man. And you're really sticking to the nature of the hustle.
I got to stay on brand, baby. Gotta stay on brand, baby.
I love the period, the hustle period. That's it. Just go at it, man. Oh man, it was so good to have you on the show, Alex. Definitely want to have you back. Is there anything? Is there anything? How can people reach out to you, social media wise, websites? I mean, I'm sure there's a laundry list of that too. Just go ahead and mention a few of them.
So the best way to get a hold of me is at everything I do is at indiefilmhustle.com. So at indiefilmhustle.com, you'll get everything, access to everything that I have for the most part. I do also consulting. So if you need me to consult, I do hourly or coaching packages for filmmakers about their business. I also do company consulting. So I consult companies about releases and strategies and things like that about marketing. And indiefilmhustle.tv or ifhtv.com, either one. That takes you to Indie Film Hustle TV in Shooting for the Mob for the book. And on social media, I'm at Indie Film Hustle pretty much everywhere except for Instagram, which I'm iFilm Hustle on Instagram. But yeah, that's all that stuff is good. And email, messages on Facebook, Twitter, things like that are best ways to get a hold of me. I try to answer as much as I can, man, but it's getting kind of nutty. So I do the best to answer back as much as I can. But if I don't call back or I don't email back, please forgive me. I do the best I can.
Well, we'll have every single one of those links and then some, I'm sure, on the show notes. It's going to be a very long page, guys. So make sure you check that out. I'm going to put all that stuff, man. Alex, thanks so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate you coming on and sharing all that information, which it's over an hour and a half episode. Definitely one of my longest ones. Probably beat the record already on this.
I appreciate that.
There's so much information. No, I appreciate you coming on and taking time to kind of share this knowledge with the small community that I've been able to build, but it's still growing. But man, you've been terrific. Thanks for all the information. I really appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate you, brother. And keep doing that hustle, baby. Keep doing the work you're doing, baby.
Thanks for everyone that stopped by. Make sure that you go over to the iFilmmaker YouTube channel, get subscribed, get notified every time we go live. Thanks everyone that joined us live. I know you guys have been sending your comments. I've just been so focused on all these stories. But man, on the next one for sure. Thanks for everyone for stopping by. Make sure you go check out all of the Indie Film Hustle books, movies, apparel, hats. I mean, you name it, he's got it. All the content, check out indiefilmhustle.tv. Gosh, I can't remember everything you just said. There's just too much stuff. Anyways, that'll be all for this episode, and we'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.
See ya.